Lynchburg, now powered by ESPN Radio and streaming at VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com.
Fox News, I'm Tom Graham. There's still hope for negotiations with Iran. President Trump says the two sides are talking.
When we talk, we say we're talking. If we're not talking, when you ask me, no, we're not talking, I'll say it. But we are talking right now. We're talking, and we're talking at the request of Iran.
Trump speaking to reporters today from the Oval Office. The president adds this is Tehran's last chance to forge a deal and avoid further escalation of U.S. strikes against their country. Nearly 60 wildfires are raging in Washington state, many not far from Spokane. Fox Weather's Craig Herrera is there.
The air quality here is just terrible. They're asking people to stay indoors. The weather is much improved today with a lack of wind, but the relative humidity is still very low.
Almost 2 million acres have burned across the Pacific Northwest. America's listening to Fox News.
As a parent, you said you'd never give up a convertible.
Look, the van even has its own backing.
You said you'd never schedule your life around a stuffed animal.
Nobody panic. Bun is still at daycare.
And never put them in harm's way.
I'll be right back, little man. Just gonna pop in the store for diapers.
But never happens. Temperatures as low as 60 degrees can be deadly for children left behind. So always bring them with you every time you park the car. Stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Your pet is missing. That sudden panic, the racing questions, the worry of what could happen. It's overwhelming. Petco Love Lost is here to help. This free, nonprofit-powered service uses photo matching technology to search the largest national lost and found pet database, including pets from shelters, neighbors, and social media, helping bring pets back to the people who love them. And it works. Every day, Petco Love Lost reunites pets with their families. A reunion happens every 4 minutes. Simply upload a photo of your lost pet or one you found, and Petco Love Lost's photo matching technology goes to work instantly. You can even register your pet in advance, so if the unthinkable happens, reporting them lost and helping bring them home is as easy as the click of a button. Every pet deserves a way home. Visit PetcoLoveLost.org to register your pet or upload a photo and search for a lost or found pet today.
Everyone is looking for ways to save money, and there's no better way to do just that than shopping at InsaneRadioDeals.com. It's your home for great deals from local businesses, including restaurants, services, experiences, memberships, and even sports tickets. Go to InsaneRadioDeals.com now to save big on your favorite local businesses. That's InsaneRadioDeals.com. Deals that are so good, they'll make you go insane.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, and asking your smart speaker, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane and JJ Hendrickson.
We can give you an MLB trade deadline update to start the Fast Lane. And JJ will give his thoughts in a moment. His team, the Boston Red Sox, were very active. Is that a good way to describe it?
I think that is a good way to describe it, Ed. Big deal, at least.
Yes, they had one big deal. They had a couple of side deals involved. I'm a Phillies fan. They picked up a second baseman from San Francisco, so yay to that for whatever that's worth. But the Tarik Skubal trade from Detroit over the weekend, it's one of those where it happened at like midnight. So to get my usher on, there are no football games. There's no basketball. There's no playoff action. There's no World Cup. And I couldn't stay up late to watch the end of the DC Open semifinals featuring former Virginia Cavalier Rafael Holdar getting a victory in come from behind fashion in the semifinals of the DC Open. He lost today to Taylor Fritz, who closed it out after a fifth match point. I couldn't stay up to watch as much as I love tennis. So I went to bed. Wake up. Tarik Skubal traded. Find out where he's going. And I just go, I mean, it's like the look of deflated fan comes out. JJ, how often have we had this discussion in the Fast Lane? Like, I feel like the people that are on this is great for baseball that the Dodgers added another big piece in Tarik Skubal. It's either Dodgers fans or lazy old sports media people who are in the dynasties are great camp and are kind of living in the past because they can't realize that to an extent dynasties are good. But when you feel like there's no hope for your team and there's no chance to challenge, unlike back in the day where you had 3 television stations, a couple of radio stations, 1 newspaper where you waited an eternity to get scores, sometimes over 24 hours. Now you got so many entertainment options. Fans are just going to do what I do, which is just throw your hands up and go, what's the point? Am I all base in feeling like that's how all non-Dodger and non-crotchety old male media member over the age of like 55 or 60 think about this Dodger trade of Tarik Skubal going from Detroit? I don't fault them. To the Dodgers, I don't fault them. But just going, really? This is where we are?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there, Ed. I don't see how anyone in this world could sit back and say Tarik Skubal going to the Dodgers is good for the game of baseball. I mean, I think the Dodgers at this point, they were already stacked. They have over $1 billion in deferred contracts on the books. And I think they're starting to approach the levels of like the 2017-18 Warriors when Kevin Durant went and signed for them. And it just felt like it was unfair for the entire league. No one wants to watch. The competition just seems over. This is absolutely atrocious for the game of baseball. They'll probably give him a contract come this offseason. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's more deferred money on the books for the Dodgers. I mean, this is a team that's so good. It kind of feels like come playoff time, every MLB fan who isn't a Dodgers fan is going to be rooting against them in every playoff series. The outcry on social media was unbelievable.
For full disclosure here in the fast lane, you're a Red Sox fan.
That is correct.
I'm a Phillies fan. Like, we are fans of teams that would clearly be classified as big spenders in baseball. Like, both of our teams are in the haves versus the have-nots category. And yet, it feels like, first of all, I'll use a tennis analogy. Like, Taylor Fritz won the DC Open today. He might be the 3rd or 4th best men's tennis player. But it feels like there is a gulf the size of the Grand Canyon between, like, those two and Jannik Sinner and, when healthy, Carlos Alcaraz. Like, it just, that's what it is. I feel like almost in baseball, we're kind of getting to the same point where it feels like there is this gulf, kind of like you mentioned, when Kevin Durant joined the Warriors. And if you wonder why people don't take him seriously, like that, those are his championships. Like, you couldn't win one on your own. You just join an already dynasty. To me, it got to the point where, like, watching the Warriors during that time, I don't care how beautiful their brand of basketball is. And at its peak, pre and even post Kevin Durant, it was really aesthetically appealing to watch. But when Durant was there, it was such a foregone conclusion, and they're steamrolling teams left and right in the playoffs. And you're having to go, I got to endure this, not just for the playoffs, but the entire season, knowing this is the likely outcome. It just stinks. Like, take Braves fans. Braves, I would put in that category of the haves. They're probably in the Phillies, Red Sox category. Maybe not quite the spenders, but they will spend money. They do a phenomenal job of developing talent. They lost one of their own, by the way, to the Dodgers a few years ago, and Freddie Freeman. If you're a Braves fan, you're doing all this stuff right, and you're just going, what's the point? Nationals fan, I mean, God bless them. They won a title almost a decade ago. How do you have any level of that? And am I off base in saying, like, this trade? So first of all, I don't fault the Dodgers for going for it. You don't know what the baseball payroll landscape is going to look like after this year. I don't fault the Tigers for trading Skubal away. You're operating under the current rules. You're sitting there going, there's no way in hell we're going to be able to re-sign this guy. Even though people know he's a free agent, we can't get top dollar. We can still get something for him. Got to do it. I don't fault them. I don't even fault the players for getting as much money as they can. But am I wrong for wanting a strike in baseball?
Not at all. I mean, this just points to the bigger issue that people have been talking about for years now. There has to be some kind of salary cap, some kind of regulation, so teams can't just building better and better like the Dodgers we're seeing right now. I mean, we're getting to a point, this Dodgers team, it really does feel like they're one of the most talented baseball teams we've ever seen on paper. Just a question of if they can come through in the playoffs. I mean, they're the defending World Series champion, and they just got significantly better. I'm really concerned about the direction of baseball following this.
It really bothers me. Like, I am. It sounds so bad to say I want there to be a lockout and a strike. Like, I want as many lost games as possible. If that's a season, that's a season. Get this right if you're baseball. Because if you're a Nationals fan, if you're a Braves fan, heck, JJ and I are Red Sox, JJ, Phillies, me fans. And we feel like our teams, big spenders, can't even keep up to this particular level. And you ask the question as a fan, what's the point? It has gone beyond the dynasties are great, a team to root against is what you need, into I've got a bunch of entertainment options. Why the heck should I care? Especially if the postseason is the best thing that comes around, but it happens to coincide with football season where, oh, by the way, the NFL, there's always, I think it's a bit of an illusion, but there's always the concept that fans can have a level of hope. Even in college football, Indiana just did what they did. I get it, they're in the Big Ten. Take that with a grain of salt. But Virginia just won 10 games in football. Other fans can go, if the schedule breaks right, that could be us. Maybe we can make the playoffs. Maybe we can make a run like Ole Miss did to the quarterfinals last year. They're now, back in the day in college football, it went from Alabama, Georgia, that was kind of it. Maybe LSU, if you got the right collection of talent, could win a championship. So now, I think at the beginning of this year, you got at least 7 teams you could say are all in the cluster that could win the championship in college football. Notre Dame, Miami, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, Texas, Georgia. That's kind of your crew. But would it shock you if an LSU happened to click every year in year one with Lane Kiffin? People might not like it, but would it shock you? Probably not. Would it shock you if all of a sudden Lincoln Riley finally got it together out at USC? Or, for those JF fans like myself that call the games on 100.9 might remember Savion Hyder gets it going early for Michigan, as we saw against JF when he was a freshman, and dominates the Wolverines. It wouldn't shock me there. I could see paths to other teams making it in the playoff. Maybe Texas Tech's quarterback is actually pretty good. Maybe BYU gets actually good production out of Bear Bachmarker. I know we're kind of stretching it, but you can make a compelling case. In baseball, it feels like none of that exists. And so that's where, God bless the Dodgers, this is probably your last chance. God bless the Tigers. But for the rest of us, please bring a lockout on sooner than later to try to get this thing resolved, even if it means wiping out the 2027 baseball season.
Yeah, just their starting rotation at this point. It's 5 guys who you seriously could say could go to any other team in MLB and be the top of the rotation guy, the ace for their team. I just don't I don't even look forward to the MLB playoffs really anymore. I'm going to watch the American League because, of course, the Red Sox, we don't know who's coming out of the American League, but it very much feels like a predetermined outcome in the National League that the Dodgers will be playing come late October, early November, and it's going to take a borderline miracle for someone to knock them out. Let me say, they did just get swept this weekend by the Red Sox in LA. So maybe if the Red Sox, who are the hottest team in baseball, make it, they stand a chance. But I can't sit here with a straight face and say that's realistic. The Dodgers just have too much talent, and something has to change in the grand scheme of baseball.
It goes from, I think you hit the nail on the head, JJ. This goes from when the Warriors were a dynasty with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, to when they added Kevin Durant. And your lazy, crotchety old media people were, this is great, a dynasty. And everyone else is like, what the heck are we paying attention to? It's going to be a blowout. And it's exactly what it was. And all of a sudden, the interest starts to wane for casual fans. The only difference is you knew age would catch up, and the NBA, it would ebb and flow at some point. Whereas in baseball, I don't think there's any of that because the Dodgers have just so much more money than everybody else, to the point where it's not just, it's not just fans, it's owners that are in. If you're an owner of the majority of baseball teams, how do you convince your fans to patronize you, to consume your product on TV or in person? And therefore, the fans aren't going to show up. The money doesn't show up. It crumbles the economic structure of the organization and the operation. That's where it gets to be a real concern if you're baseball, is it goes beyond just the competitive side of things to the business side. Because if I'm a fan of these teams, how much level of hope and optimism can I continue to hold out and have and put my discretionary income in time, which is also money, into these type of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Just from a financial aspect, you don't want to go out there and watch baseball teams that you think have no chance of competing at all. I get it if you're a baseball lover, you want to go out to the ballpark for a time, but I feel like most baseball fans are not going to be invested to the point they would have been if the Dodgers didn't have this level of talent. No one thinks their team can win at this point. And the Dodgers, the best way to put it is they're ruining baseball. And I know it's not necessarily their fault. They're just trying to build the best team they possibly can. But the way the current structure is set up, Their team is just simply too good. It feels like they're playing a video game and building some kind of all-star team, except they're all playing for LA.
I don't have any fault with the Dodgers doing what they're doing. In fact, if I'm them, I am doing this because there might be, whenever baseball gets its labor situation resolved, who knows? Maybe there is a hard cap. Maybe it's like the NBA where it's so cumbersome to spend over a certain amount that you have to shed payroll and it breaks things up. If I'm the Dodgers, they are the team that I think has the most compelling case, so they have the most invested in the current system to go all in. It's just the current system stinks for the rest of us baseball fans that want something to get excited about. And you wake up Sunday morning and you see Tarik Skubal's been traded, and then you see it spin to the Dodgers, and there's that sinking stomach feeling of, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? That is the real challenge and sinking feeling. Meanwhile, from the opposite of sinking to being raised up, that's where we kick off the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
JJ time. A lot of Major League Baseball trades happened today. Give us your 3 biggest highlights, Red Sox bias aside.
Okay, Red Sox bias aside, I do think the biggest deal that we've seen happen today was Adley Rutschman moving to the Red Sox. They gave up 5 players in this deal, which I think is a slight overpay. But at the same time, they got one of the better catchers in MLB, a 3-time All-Star. His OPS is up around 760. Really, really big move for them. And I think he's going to go a long way. He's a switch hitter. I'm always a fan of having more switch hitting in the line. And, I mean, at the end of the day, you gave up one of your best pitching prospects, a right-hander, Anthony Ianson. He's still a few years away, and the Red Sox seem to be going all in this year. Another big trade, I mean, the Skubal one you have to mention. We touched on it. That's got to be one of the 3 biggest trades of the deadline. And the other one I have, Tampa Bay Rays made a move for Freddie Peralta from the New York Mets, who was a guy who I thought was going to have a really good year, hasn't been quite as good. They had to give up some prospects, and he's going to join Drew Rasmussen, Shane McClanahan, and Nick Martinez in one of the best rotations in the American League. Tampa Bay Rays are in first place in the AL East right now. I believe they have the best record in the entire American League, and they got another front-end starter who's going to help them get even better.
I like that one. I think it's a real good low-key trade deadline move for the Tampa Bay Rays. The Orioles trade of Rutschman, I know there are a lot of fans around here that are bummed out because of the amount of hype around Rutschman that came out. I know he's been banged up this year. I almost feel like if you're going to pull that deal off, you have to get an egregious amount back, which is what it kind of feels like it's overpay. But for the Red Sox, you can probably make up for that with free agent signings. Again, if you're presuming how the current structure operates. And if you're Baltimore, you have to get that much in return to be able to have something where you can justify that type of piece, because it feels like the heart sank for a lot of Baltimore Orioles fans with that particular trade. Meanwhile, back over to JJN.
Number 4.
Mauricio Pochettino and Team USA have agreed to a new contract through 2030. I mean, for a casual fan like me, this seems like it'd be a good move. I know Team USA was kind of blasted when they leveled up against Belgium in the round of 16, but he got them there. They looked better than they have at any point. They've got a good young nucleus around him. So it seems, as a casual soccer fan, like this is the right move. You are more nuanced than I am, JJ. Pick that apart or agree with it.
No, I actually do agree with that. I think Pochettino did a great job with the World Cup this past year. I know they went down to Belgium. It was a bad showing. They lost 4-1. Bad mistake from the goalkeeper. But at the end of the day, that Belgium team was just more talented. They had better players. I don't think you can blame Pochettino for that. This was probably the best World Cup performance we've seen in recent history from a United States team. And that was led by Pochettino. He got the players to buy in, and he was singing Country Roads at the end of every win. You can tell he cares about the team. He wants to keep going. I'm really excited to see what kind of future he brings, to have a whole World Cup cycle to build for the next World Cup in 2030.
Speaking of futures and the World Cup in 2030,
Number 3.
it looks like it may not include Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, because UEFA nations have decided to boycott the World Cup in both the men's and women's editions. And a reminder, the Women's World Cup, where Team USA actually has a chance to hoist the trophy, will be next summer. So we are not too far from that. It's not official, but a lot of signs are pointing in that direction. Do you think this ends up being the ultimate outcome?
Oh, yeah. I'd be surprised, honestly, Ed, if he's still the president come March 2027 when we have the next election. There's been a lot of momentum for him to resign and lose his job following his FIFA Forward Enterprise Plan, which, as you know, is when he tried to sell the World Cup into private equity, basically wanted people to own the World Cup. And no nations were really excited with that. It actually ended up with a coup being led by the General Secretary of FIFA, Matthias Grafstrom, to try and get Gianni Infantino to lose his job. And not only is UEFA boycotting it, CONCACAF and the Asian Federation also denied the plan, and he actually withdrew the plan as a whole in an effort to save his job. But I heard UEFA has completely lost confidence in him, and they still want him out despite his scrapping it.
I love the let me withdraw this to save my job. Like, that's always my favorite, because these people clearly socialize, that's the term, socialize the concept beforehand. And I'm sure they socialize it only to private equity people. So it all sounds good to them for selfish purposes, but to nobody else. So that part makes sense. I am just so amused that you could do all this and not necessarily have the foresight to realize there's going to be backlash, especially when the Super League, well, is that what you were called? The Super League. They tried to do a Super League, not in college football, but in soccer a few years ago. And that didn't go very well for a sport that I like this. Is somewhat bound by tradition. Some things I don't like. No overtime, no golden goal in overtime, that type of thing. But other things I like, the voice of the fan really does feel loud in the world of soccer. I love that and hope that that maintains itself, because the people that are in the position who, well, happen to have lots of power are the ones that would really only screw that up. And when the fans can get to the point where there's so much backlash that UEFA is saying no mas, I like that. More power to the people in this sense.
Yeah, I think Infantino also overestimated the power of money to some of these federations. His plan was to offer them a $40 million total, $20 million now and $20 million over the next 4 years if nations agreed to this. And they said, we don't really care about the money. We don't want the World Cup to be owned. They're still going to get $10 million as part of the current deal. But I think his angle was to try and bribe them into taking the deal, and it just didn't work anywhere near as much as he thought it was going to.
Imagine that somebody who has a history of allegedly bribing people tries to do it again, and eventually it backfires. That's one of those got caught with his hand in the cookie jar one too many times. Speaking of legal situations,
Number 2.
talk about a Friday news dump. Judge Charlotte Sweeney, the U.S. District Court of Colorado, has granted a class-wide preliminary injunction that requires the NCAA to declare eligible all class of 2022 athletes, which does include guys like Dallin Hall from UVA and Colin Porter from Liberty, along with everybody's lining up for this one. Thomas Castellanos from Boston College and Florida State. It worked out so poorly in Tallahassee last year, he thinks he might get another crack. Somewhere maybe, but I don't know who all is going to disrupt team chemistry for mediocre performances. I laugh about this because shouldn't the NCAA have seen this coming? That if you put the 5-5 rule in place and tried to exclude a class that could potentially capitalize, like the most recent one, 2022, this was going to happen at some point. It is yet again the example of the NCAA, who once upon a time spent $400 million over a 10-year period, $40 million a year, to just protect their status with legal records, as opposed to asking lawyers how to put a better system in place. $400 million, probably could have done it. Instead, they went the wrong route, and it's just another example of them having their heads buried in the sand.
Yeah, it's absolutely foolish. I mean, you make a rule, and then you want to act surprised when a ruling is made in favor of that rule. I mean, have we ever seen a class-wide injunction like this from a judge before? This hasn't been done before. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean,
at least to my knowledge, if it's happened, it has been something minor.
Right. I mean, the NCAA just continues to be completely oblivious to their perception of their whole organization. And this just goes to show it again. You're going to make a rule and then act surprised when that rule is used and utilized. It doesn't make any sense for me. And just another bad look on the NCAA. I don't know how many we're going to see it.
Outside of organizing some non-revenue sports championships and March Madness, what's their point? Like, what is literally the point of them? It leads us into
Number 1.
The Protect College Sports Act is an example of that. And in a shocking reversal, the SEC and Big Ten now have voted to support the Protect College Sports Act, with some of the legislation being changed more favorably. I am still waiting to get more info and hear more legal experts digest this. I'll just say this much. I was shocked that they did it. As you can listen to our chat Friday with Josh Pate, college football expert, and he joined us to talk about bad timing. Literally right before this news came out, when we connected with Josh Pate, it seemed like the SEC and the Big Ten were just stalling to try to get this thing to run out so they could outspend everybody. Somehow, Congress and Donald Trump and everybody else get them on board with this. I'm not here to make a political commentary on that, but I'll just say I was shocked by it and want to learn more about why all of a sudden this is now a good move.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, they seemed very against it, and then all of a sudden we had a sudden reversal. You got to wonder if there was some kind of benefits that they threw their way. Something had to motivate them to completely change their mind. It seemed like this whole time they were against it, and then all of a sudden they just both decided to flip. Had to be some strings being pulled by someone high up. I'm not sure what it is, but I hope we find out.
I don't know. Maybe they talked to the University of Miami Hurricanes football staff about how to get a last-second flip in when it all seems against the wall. Miami might know something about it. Apparently, Congress using the same approach as the folks down at the U. When we return here in the Fast Lane, we will touch on your teams and topics in part one of Covering the Commonwealth. Some camp activity in Charlottesville. Some camp previews for JMU and camp activity in D.C. All of that when we return here in the Fast Lane.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Thinking about land? Think the Farmers Bank of Appomattox. Whether it's for building, farming, or investing, we're here to help you take that next step. Our land loans offer flexible options and local decision-making you can trust because we're based in Appomattox and have locations throughout Central Virginia. Let's turn your plans into possibilities. Visit us today on Timberlake Road or the Farmers Bank branch that's convenient for you and start your journey toward owning the land you've always wanted.
Edge of your seat drama, the thrilling pursuit of victories and championships. From the premier NASCAR series to local racing, visit frontstretch.com for your true inside access. We don't just report the news, we live it. From insightful articles and captivating podcast commentary, frontstretch.com opens the gates to the NASCAR pits, track, and corporate suite so you can get closer to the garage than ever before. Frontstretch.com, fast, fearless, focused on racing fans.
Hey, Hokie fans, the warm weather months are when you really need experts plugged into the Virginia Tech Hokies. You need TechSideline.com. While Tech softball and baseball light up the diamond, TechSideline.com keeps you updated while taking you deep inside the football and basketball off seasons. Get exclusive recruiting scoops, roster breakdowns, and expert analysis that keeps you ahead of the game year-round. Subscribe to TechSideline.com for $12 per month or just $120 per year to stay ahead of the game. TechSideline.com. All Hokies, all the time, period.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speed Queen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
From the blue waters of the Chesapeake Bay to the hills of Tennessee, listen to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle on the VTRN Sports app.
Come join the chat or give us a piece of your mind. JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The Protect College Sports Act. There are final details that are apparently being worked out as we speak. We're waiting to get the latest nuggets and information on that. This is the type of thing where there's so much legalese that I'm just working to digest all of that because I don't pretend to know exactly all of it and how that's going to go. But essentially, that's the gist of where I'm looking to see is the level of consolations and considerations given, particularly the SEC and the Big Ten, because those are the two conferences that, as of this juncture, have the biggest amount of leverage and can stand to benefit the most by just holding out. Because a lot of the whole setup of college athletics, for me, seems to be that they're operating under one of two types of guises. Either the status quo because they are the strongest, or some kind of change that would allow them to add additional schools and strengthen their position, which at some point I still wonder whether we'll get to a point where there's a breakaway. That's kind of the next step. If you're going to cap how many schools can go into a conference or some level of conference expansion is the next step, creating some kind of super league where you just create your own entity so it doesn't even include college sports. You govern it differently. You structure it differently. You look at it differently. That would probably be the next setup to it. But under the current structure, it doesn't overly bother me in certain instances. I'm probably the only person that is yet to have a real issue. Like, for example, with the 2014 college football playoff. We've discussed it before. We had a debate a few weeks ago, in particular, about the concept of the 2014 college football playoff. And, I like that better than 76 in March Madness. Shannon, by the way, agreed and chimes in. We're always grateful for feedback. But Shannon has added, one of the reasons why I support the 2014 playoff, especially over the 76 team in basketball, is because at that point, we can just start eliminating conference championships, go right into the postseason at the end of the regular season, and bring a wider audience into relevant postseason games. Which, for me, that's been the whole gist of the structure of college athletics, is moving in a direction where you can have more. Back in the day, making a bowl game mattered. Back in the day, players did not feel like they stood to lose a lot financially from being injured in postseason. But there are a couple of examples of it. Jake Butt is probably the most notable one. You might know who he is, you might not. He was a tight end for the University of Michigan. Projected first-round pick. Tears his knee up in a bowl game. Unlike Willis McGahee, who suffered the knee injury for Miami and went on to be a first-round draft pick anyway, Jake Butt ended up being a fourth-round draft pick. And because he was a fourth-round draft pick, less roster security. Knee never quite got to where it needed to be. And he bailed. And other players started seeing the impacts of that. And bowl games gain less value. You have a tough time, I think, if you're a player, fiending or opting out of a playoff game. I think the NFL would ding you for it. But once the word got out that players were going to opt out of bowl games and the NFL views them as scrimmages and then players view them as scrimmages, the whole game changed. So that's where, like, for example, on Shannon's point, the 2014 playoff makes sense. You're selling, I know we curse here in the fast lane when we say this, but you're selling hope to teams and fans over a longer period of time than you are before. And if it means eliminating conference championship games, then so be it. So that's where you look at this type of setup. And that's one of those where, under the current structure of college sports, I'm fine with it. I understand the SEC in particular is against it because, one, ESPN would not have exclusivity, and they basically are the puppet behind the SEC, and Fox is behind the Big Ten, and the other conferences also could have more access in a wider playoff. I get that. But it is the type of thing I'm monitoring as part of what would come out of the Protect College Sports Act going forward and how all this would tie in to that. Meanwhile, how all this ties into the Virginia Cavaliers, we'll ask that question right now in
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the Virginia Cavaliers.
I have stated already that I'm in a bit of a wait-and-see mode of how the Protect College Sports Act impacts teams in the ACC and in our area. Somebody who may be a little bit more up on this, he may be in the same boat we are, is Jerry Ratcliffe, veteran UVA reporter at jerryratcliffe.com. Hootie, great to be speaking with you. I don't pretend to be a legal expert or have ever played one in any type of scenario. So I will ask you, are you in the same wait-and-see boat we are in terms of what are the impacts and ramifications if this Protect College Sports Act ultimately gets signed, which is somehow trending in that direction?
Yeah, I think we're all going to have to wait and see, Ed, because, just it's so complicated. I know a couple of, and going to the other phase of it where the judge in Colorado ruled that the players from the 22 class could have an extra year. I know a few former Virginia football players and at least one former Virginia basketball player are apparently looking into that. It's possibly returning to college ball. But I think in the grand scheme of things, we're just going to have to wait and see what the final decision is going to be, even though it did pass. It sounds like, in one way, I think it's good because it gives us some kind of a solid rules to follow for a change. But I'm sure that there's some other kinks in it that some of the conferences would like to be explored a little further.
Veteran UVA reporter Jerry Ratcliffe stopping by with us here in the Fast Lane. From the long term to the immediacy of the Virginia Cavaliers, who have already begun their fall camp. Remember, they have a week 0 date against NC State, what is now fewer than 4 weeks to go from that season opener up in Charlottesville. Hootie, wide receivers, you got a piece at jerryratcliffe.com about that being one of the biggest question marks on this team going forward. What do we know about the wide receiving group right now as we're a week or so into camp?
Well, we know that there's a few veterans in there that have been in the Virginia system for a while now, and Tony Elliott and Des Kitchens have just kind of been waiting for to take the next step. They have a lot of potential, but they haven't proven it under fire. And there's at least 2 transfers, maybe 3, that have shown flashes in camp and throughout spring and summer. Rico Flores from UCLA and Notre Dame is one of those guys. There's a couple others that have looked really good in the first week of camp. So I think that they feel like that there's plenty of potential there. And Elliott said, heck, I wouldn't mind playing all, 10 or 12 of those guys if there's no separation. He feels like they're all good enough to play, but I think they would like to see somebody step up, particularly as a deep threat, to enhance things, because even though they plan on running the football, they're going to have to throw it some just to take some pressure off their running game.
Hootie, we'll pivot from that over to the other side, the offensive line for the Virginia Cavaliers. You got a great article about how good they could be this season. The biggest question mark has been coaching, particularly Terry Heffernan departing. Is that an underrated concern, or is that something that maybe even being overplayed considering the number of players they still return?
Well, I think Heffernan was one of the better offensive line coaches around, at least this part of the country. And I think he'll sorely be missed. He got a lot out of that line the last year or so. But Joey Orrick, who was promoted into that slot, has been under Heffernan the last couple of years and been in Virginia's system as either a consultant or analyst for several years now. And I'm sure he picks up where Heffernan left off. So I think there's going to be a huge drop-off in the coaching part of it because Orrick has been around all these guys, and they respect him. His goal is to build some depth on that line, and he feels like he can, just to kind of give some of those really veteran guys some breaks. So if it turns into a long season, that the bumps and bruises won't show up quite so badly.
Jerry Ratcliffe with us here in the Fast Lane. Hootie, appreciate your time. We'll touch on some Who basketball on the next one when we get a chance. Thank you for joining us, though, today here in the Fast Lane.
Glad to be with you, Ed. See you next week.
Now to the JMU Dukes.
Shane Mettlen stopping by with us here in the Fast Lane. He's at Shane_DNR Sports, and he joins us here today. Shane, we are grateful for your time. We really appreciate you making a moment for us today in the Fast Lane. We've asked this of other guests. We'll ask it of you. How much are you in wait-and-see mode in terms of the Protect College Sports Act and how it impacts the JMU Dukes?
Very much. It's funny you use that term because that's exactly had a sit down not too long ago with Matt Rohn, JMU's AD, and Jim Schmidt, the president, and those were the exact words they used too. It's wait and see mode for them. Like just kind of wait and see if this thing goes anywhere in the Senate. And then, even if it does, like you still got to pass the other House of Congress. You got a long ways before anything's really enacted. And, they didn't even know for sure, like what the language is. There's not that many people who know what the language of the bills is at this point right now. So it really is wait and see to even know if it's something that's going to be good for a program like JMU or not.
Pivoting off of that to action that's actually going to be taking place on the football field as the JMU Dukes get ready and are on the verge of opening up their fall camp. Quarterback is the most obvious position battle for the JMU Dukes. How much are you going to be monitoring the rest of the offense, particularly how Billy Napier and the offense can look on the line and in the run game to alleviate question marks, considering they may not be fully settled at quarterback until they get closer to the opener against Liberty?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely evaluate those things. But I think it does help that, those are two areas where they have experienced, proven players coming back. Not everywhere across the offensive line, but I think you got a guy like Zach Greenberg to anchor the offensive line. That really helps. You got George Pettaway, who looks like an all-conference type of running back before, battling some injuries last year. And you talked about it before, he got Wally pipped a little bit by behind an All-American running back situation. So I think he's going to get the carries this year, a lot of them. And they'll spread the ball around, but I think it's going to be an opportunity for Pettaway to kind of get back into star mode, maybe. If he's healthy, it seems like he's definitely motivated. And, that should take some pressure off whoever ends up being the quarterback.
Meanwhile, on the other side is the defense. Is there any chance that Trent Hendrick actually returns to JMU, considering we now have another court ruling, this one being the 5-5 and the class of 2022 players all of a sudden being eligible?
I don't know for sure. I mean, I think it's possible. If there were very many players that were going to get that opportunity to say, hey, we'll welcome you back with open arms, I think it would be a Trent Hendrick who stuck around JMU for a long time. Even back in the spring, he was still working out, kind of doing a little helping out with the program just because, he was trying to prepare for pro opportunities. So he's been around the new coaching staff. I don't know for sure, but I would think if there was anybody who, if they came to the coaching staff and hey, what can we do? Hendrick might be one.
Shane Mettlen with us here in the Fast Lane. He's at Shane_DNR Sports. Shane, always good to be chatting with you. We are appreciative of your time and insight. And next time we link up, there'll be football in the air.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Now to, just for you haters, left hand up the Commanders.
Yes, Madam President, Candy Baller of Bowie TV Sports, stopping by with us today here in the Fast Lane. Seawall, glad to be speaking with you. We are appreciative of your time. We're a week or so into camp with the Washington Commanders. Lake Lewis gave glowing reviews, particularly on the defensive side of the ball when we spoke with him last week. Has that trend continued with the Washington Commanders defense looking like they are acclimating quickly to new defensive coordinator Durante Jones?
Absolutely. I mean, today was the first day in pads, and I mean, that intensity level, the energy, all of that is still up. The competitiveness still up. It's definitely something where we're seeing iron sharpening iron, but the defense still high performing. The offense is closing in on them a bit, but we're seeing in team drills and all of that, for sure, the defense still has the edge.
You mentioned the defense having the edge. How concerning is it for the offense of what you have or have not seen?
I was feeling a bit concerned perhaps on Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday, their walk practice was closed to the media on Friday, and we were back on Saturday. I wasn't as concerned once I watched today some of the O-line versus the offensive line versus defensive line one-on-one. We saw the offensive line have the edge there, right? I'm like, okay, perhaps when it comes to the team drills and overall scheming and execution of it all, Coach Jones is a bit more ahead of the curve than Coach Blau right now. And going back to the theory of what they say, iron sharpens iron, we hear that line used often, of course. And so let's see how the offense continues to kind of close that gap there. I think we'll really start to see it probably getting into joint practices next week.
We have yet to get into this in the fast lane, and this is a shame on us. But part of that particular change has been Wes Welker taking over now as the new tight ends coach. How has that impacted the offense so far?
So, interestingly enough, I did ask one of the tight ends today about working with Wes Welker. One of the newer free agent, Chig Okonkwo, about working with Wes Welker. And nothing but glowing remarks. I mean, with Wes, time in the NFL, as everyone knows, being in the NFL, the championship level, all of that, he is really helping the tight end group. And then overall, he had told me in a one-on-one back in June that his role is to really help wherever is needed. Of course, they need him in the tight ends room to take on that role a bit, so he's doing that. But his overall knowledge of the game and what's required, even now in 2026, has been very helpful with the players have said.
Madam President Candy Waller with us here in the Fast Lane with Bowie TV Sports, giving us a round-robin look at what's going on in Commanders training camp. Seawall, great to be chatting with you. We appreciate it, and we look forward to another chat in another week with more developments and a preseason game on the horizon.
Absolutely. Can't wait. I'll be talking to you guys again soon.
Yes, indeed, Madam President Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports to wrap up part one of covering the Commonwealth. When we return, the Hill City Howlers kind of getting it together. We'll get to that, plus the Virginia Tech Hokies. Lots of changes, staff-wise, extensions, and more when we return in the Fast Lane.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics to Coney Island, Betty Bop, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
We're joined by Randy Trost with Trost Law. Randy, unfortunately, you guys seem to be seeing a lot of people that are driving without insurance and then impacting other motorists. What have you guys noticed, and what do people need to know to protect themselves?
We are seeing clients come into our office being injured by motorists without insurance. And the most important thing that a person can do to protect themselves against these uninsured motorists or underinsured motorists is to make sure their own uninsured, underinsured coverage matches their liability coverage for their insurance policy on their car, and make sure they have more than the minimum liability coverage limits and uninsured, underinsured motorist liability coverage limits.
Randy Trost with Trost Law discussing how you can protect yourself from uninsured or underinsured motorists. When people are considering their policies, do you have any do's or don'ts to make sure they have a strong policy?
I recommend getting a minimum of $100,000 single event liability insurance policy and making sure that your uninsured, underinsured liability limits are matching that $100,000 liability policy.
Randy, thank you for sharing that info with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
For more about how Trost Law can help you if you've been hurt, trostlaw.com, 434-777-HURT.
Some places play football. Virginia Tech lives it. In Blacksburg, maroon and orange combine to belt an anthem heard across the mountain.
Fireworks light up the evening sky in Blacksburg.
And on warm autumn nights, the earth will shake beneath your feet.
It's a miracle in Blacksburg. Tyrod did it, Mikey. Tyrod did it.
One stadium, one tradition, one unforgettable experience. Virginia Tech football tickets are on sale now. Visit Hokiesports.com. We'll see y'all in the fall.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at JJ Hendrickson 27 and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
This song has legitimately come on my list when I'm not listening to the VTRN Sports app and Rewind 1039 Lynchburg's classic hits. And my son has heard it, but it has not quite resonated in a way where he is asking to hear this music again and again. I have to explain to him certain terminology. I am trying to avoid it, but I have a feeling some of this might be, I wouldn't call it inevitable on my end because I don't often listen to music when I'm around them unless it's Rewind 1039 Lynchburg's Classic Hits. But, I mean, I can't say I was the best at there as a child, and I understand kids have their ways to find around it. So you got to educate them on what all that means. That will come at another time. Your teams and topics come right now in...
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the Hill City Howlers.
Jason Prill, play-by-play broadcaster for the Hill City Howlers, stopping by with us here in the Fast Lane. He's at JasPrill19 on Twitter and Instagram. Jason, going to be speaking with you. The bullpen, is that the common sentiment? Not just the blown lead on Tuesday, but throughout the entire series against Fayetteville, where the Howlers dropped 5 out of 6.
Yeah, it's not just the entire series. That it's been really the entire season. The bullpen has been a struggling point for this ball club. The lineup, for the most part, has been solid. The starting pitching has been exactly what you needed it to do. It's been the bullpen that has blown leads late, and that has caused a lot of problems for the Howlers. And so, yeah, I think it is safe to say that the bullpen has caused some of the problems.
What level of this is confidence at that point in that particular part of the Hill City Howlers?
Yeah, I think that plays a big role. I mean, you look at these guys, they're all trying to do something new. You come into the season, you have goals, you have expectations, and you have a way that you've pitched your entire life. And then you get to an organization, and all of a sudden they try to change things. They change your motion, they change your windup, they change your delivery, they try to add a new pitch, and it can really rattle you for a little while. And especially at this level, you oftentimes see guys going through the motions and struggling. We've been lucky in the last few years to not have seen that as much because the pitching has been so solid. But this year, we're just kind of going through the motions that every minor league team goes through, where they're making changes. Guys are having trouble adjusting and adding a new pitch to the repertoire or changing their windup. And so, yeah, I think it's safe to say confidence can take a toll in those situations when you're not seeing the results that you think you should be getting, especially based upon what they're doing off the field.
Meanwhile, Wilson will come into the Hill City tomorrow through Sunday. First of all, for the Hill City Howlers, 2 big nights of promos, replica championship ring giveaway. How cool are these?
They are incredible. I've compared them to the one that I got from the team myself, and they are about as good as you can get in terms of how they look and what their size is like. So if you've ever wanted to have your own championship ring, especially commemorating the Hillcats, I think you're going to want to be here for the ball game this coming Friday night.
How much is this also the fact that we know they're the Hill City Howlers now, but there is still a level of embracing the past within this organization?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think remembering exactly where we've come from is important, right? And for the community, remembering the Hillcats, yes, we're the Howlers now, but being the Hillcats was a large part of who we were for over 30 years. And so getting a chance to look back and remember exactly what we did last year and winning that championship, the Hillcats will forever be champions. That's how they went out, and we will forever remember that as an organization. We will forever celebrate that as an organization. Having a new name does not change what they did last season, and so we want to embrace that. We want to engage with it. We want to celebrate that as best we can.
JasPrill19, Twitter and Instagram, Hill City Howlers, HCHowlers.com, and on their socials to get with them. Jason, last one for you. Have you seen the backpacks that are going to be part of the Howlers backpack giveaway on Sunday?
I have, and I think if you've got a kid that is excited for the school year, or maybe not so excited for the school year, the backpack might be exactly what they need to get ready, cheering on their favorite baseball team as they head back into the classroom. So we encourage everybody to come out for that giveaway on Sunday. It should be a fun time.
JasPrill19 is the way to link up with him. HC Howlers to link up with them, whether that's .com or on the socials. Jason, always great to chat with you in the Fast Lane.
Absolutely, anytime, Ed.
And last but not least, or maybe least, the Virginia Tech Hokies.
The real D. Cunna on Twitter and Instagram. It's been a minute since we last spoke with David Cunningham, the managing editor for TechSideline.com, who is back with us once again in the Fast Lane. David, great to be speaking with you. Have you had a chance to exhale over the last couple of weeks, even though the news is fervently picking up, as you would expect for an athletic department featuring a lot of new faces?
Yeah, Ed, great to be with you. It has been a while since we chatted. Somehow I did not end up coming on your show when we were down in Charlotte at ATG Kickoff, which I think might be a first. But hope you're doing well. And I know fall camp, it's right here. It starts on Wednesday for the Hokies, and it's going to be a busy week.
Fall camp does begin on Wednesday. Of what you're allowed to watch in the media, the quarterback position, people think they know what's going to happen with that. Is that still at the top of your list, or is it more the playmakers to surround the quarterback position, particularly the offensive line, that have your attention?
Yeah, I think the offensive line. I think we all kind of know it's going to be Ethan Grunkemeyer. It's the quarterback until they announce it's going to be Grunkemeyer. I think everybody's going to be paying attention to that, Ed. But I look up front at both of the lines. This offensive line should be much improved. But how much are we talking, right? It's hard when the floor from last year is so low. And there are two big guys, Logan Howland, potentially at left tackle, and Justin Terry, potentially at right tackle, that are transfers in from Oklahoma and Ohio State, respectively, that did not really play in the spring. We did not get a chance to see them. How do those guys shake out? How do they look? They've both got a lot of experience. How does this offensive line for Matt Moore come together? It's a big-time year for him because this team will kind of go as the offensive line goes, I think, at least the offense, because you've got a quarterback that can actually throw the ball accurately now if he's got a little bit more time. On the other side, Ed, I look at the defensive line. You got Kamari Copeland. You got Elijah Fall at defensive tackle. You think you got Asen Stevens at defensive end. But everything else is a bunch of question marks. Who's left? Who is going to step up and make plays when it matters? That's what I'm curious to know. You've got a lot of question marks, I think, on the both offense and defensive line. Maybe we'll get a little bit more info about what's going on in preseason practice. You know, this is a lot of interesting holes to be filled for James Franklin. There's a lot of different places you can look. I think the offense and defensive lines are the most important because you got to win in the trenches, first and foremost. And you look back at the last couple of years when the Hokies had some pretty good success, it's because they were good up front. They had APR. They had Aeneas Peebles on the defensive line. When they struggled, it's because they didn't necessarily get those spots right.
Do you expect, or will you be monitoring at least, load management for Fall, Stevens, and Copeland, given that if you know what you got with them, you probably want to see more reps out of the rest of those defensive linemen to get an idea of what else there actually is?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, you've got a guy like, for example, Jason Abbey. I believe he's going to be a redshirt sophomore or redshirt junior, however you want to list classes now with the 5x5 model, Ed. But he's been in the program 2 or 3 years now. He's had time to mature and get seasoned a little bit. Is this the year where, like Asen Stevens, he kind of breaks out and puts on a show? Who are those guys in the two deep that are going to round things out? There's a guy named T-Ron Richardson. He's a true freshman coming in. Is he somebody who could potentially sneak into that rotation at defensive tackle, or is it too early for him, right? You've got a new defensive line coach in Sean Spencer, Coach Chaos, and I think he's got such a history of producing good defensive lines. He's got his hands full, especially, Ed, if a guy like Emmett Laws, who got injured in the spring, if it's serious enough, and it seems like it will be, that he will miss significant time in the fall. If so, you're talking about a very thin, as we know it right now, defensive line with a lot of question marks. So, yeah, I think I look at that line and go, all right, we know Kamari Copeland. We know Elijah Fall. We know a little bit about Asen Stevens. Show me the other guys. What you got? And I look at a guy like Samuel Onkunlula, who came over from Colorado. He was really good at defensive end at Pitt. Javian Hilson from Missouri. Like, these are guys who have maybe produced in the past, have been a little bit banged up, have been highly recruited. Like, a combination, it's got to come together. You're going to need these guys to produce because you don't have an Antoine Powell-Ryland that can go get you double-digit sacks in a season.
The Real G Kana, Twitter and Instagram, TechSideline.com, and the TSL podcast. As David Cunningham is with us in the fast lane on W227 BG Timberlake, WBGM and Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside, the VTRN Sports app, and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Pivoting from football to other sports, the Mike Young one-year contract extension. Is this setting it up so that 2027 is a make-or-break year, 26-27, is a make-or-break season for both Mike Young and Virginia Tech in terms of if it doesn't go well, neither one may want to be around?
Yeah, to an extent. I think everybody knows that it's got to be now or never for Mike Young. That's the bottom line. He's got to get back to the tournament. He's got to win. It will be interesting, Ed, as we get closer to the season, maybe around October, when we have a chance to talk to Mike Young, chance to talk to Brian White a little bit more, when he's had a chance to be hands-on with those programs, about how much more or less funding they are going to get from where they were, men's basketball, women's basketball. Like, the Hokies already fund women's basketball at a very competitive level. My guess is they will fund it at an even higher level. My guess is in the men's basketball world, the Hokies will have a little bit more funding under Brian White than it did under the previous athletic director. But at the same time, you've got to produce results. And Brian White, he's the guy who hired Dusty May at Florida Atlantic. Like, he's got a track record of hiring solid basketball coaches. May was a huge hire, and they funded that program well. For Mike Young, Ed, it has to work this year. And I'm not saying they need to make the NCAA tournament. I'm not saying if he doesn't, he's going to be fired, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. That is the bottom line. And I think everyone around the program understands it. Like, you've got to show that you can get back there, especially with the NCAA tournament expansion. Like, it is going to be easier than ever in some regard to make the NCAA tournament. You've got to do it because it's been far too long that Virginia Tech has gone without an NCAA tournament appearance. And I think the buyout goes down. So if the Hokies wanted to make a change after next year, they could, if the situation sets up well. But it will also be interesting, Ed, to just get a pulse from Brian White once he's getting a chance to know Mike Young of what this is going to look like, what their relationship and what Brian White's vision for the men's basketball program is. Right? What does the Castle Coliseum project look like? Are they going to get hands-on with that again? There are a lot of questions around the hoops programs, and I think as we get closer to the year, we'll have a little bit more answers. But yeah, Mike Young and Megan Duffy both have extensions, but they're in two completely different ballparks right now. One is on a high, and one kind of needs to prove some stuff.
Pivoting off of that to the rest of the contract extensions for coaches. Any of that surprise you at all?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think you got Pete DeMoore. He's a proven softball coach. Obviously, he's been one of your most successful. The Tony Roby contract extension for wrestling happened in the fall, and he got a little bit of a bump. Both of those well-deserved. I think Sergio Lopez Miro, he's the swim and dive coach. He's been awfully successful at Virginia Tech, and you want to lock him up for the long term. None of those surprised me at all. And Mike Brizendine, the men's soccer coach, he got extended by a couple months from February to June in 2028, in part because the soccer calendar is shifting from just fall to fall and spring. So you got to extend his contract, past the end of the season. I think the interesting one, it'll be when it happens, Ed, and how long, is John Sheff, the baseball coach. We talked a lot about it this spring. They had a very successful back half of the year, go to the NCAA tournament. Didn't necessarily end well in LA, but John Sheff has an extension coming, in part because he's going into last year on his deal, just like Mike Young. What do those terms look like? I'm very curious to find out. When that comes about, we'll talk more about it.
Last one for David Cunningham of TextLiveline.com here in the Fast Lane. $1.2 million gift to track and field and cross country from Martha and Paul Soifer, who are from Lynchburg, Virginia, which is in our Virginia Talk Radio Network backyard. Their son, Peter, was one of the best distance runners in Virginia Tech history the last decade. 2-time All-American, 4-time All-ACC champion. He is an elite runner, to say the least. Do people have an appreciation for how far $1.2 million can go in track and field and cross country compared to other sports?
I don't think they do. I think some people might look at it and go, well, what are you doing here? Like, you could donate that money to literally any other sport, basketball, football. But this is a track and field and cross country family. And Virginia Tech has a very rich history and tradition in track and field and cross country. Peter, he was in school the same time I was at Virginia Tech. And he was a very, very, very impressive athlete, but also a student athlete. He excelled in the academic side as well. And I think I'm curious to see how this shakes out for the long term. Obviously, they're building a pavilion and they're doing some stuff in the Rector Fieldhouse lobby where the indoor track is. But can some of this go to the roster? I'm very curious to see how how that is kind of divvied up, because I think in 1 million in football, maybe not a lot. 1 million in one of the basketballs, okay, maybe not that much. 1 million in an Olympic sport like track and field, it can go an extremely long way from both a facilities standpoint and potentially a roster standpoint. And I think you're gonna see the Hokies take most advantage of that as they can. But Ed, in the bigger picture, we've had so many big donations written about, talked about lately from Virginia Tech. From both an academic and athletics perspective. Talked about that $75 million one just a couple months ago. Virginia Tech is firing on all cylinders from an advancement perspective across the board, not just academics, but also athletics and everybody working together. And this is just another example of the Hokies excelling in that area right now.
David Cunningham excels in his analysis and insight on the Virginia Tech Hokies, TechSideline.com, the TSL podcast, and the Real Decon on Twitter and Instagram are the ways to keep up with him. David, appreciate your time in the fast lane. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask and get my usher on for a moment in the fast lane as well. But I have yet to listen to it. It is on my queue to listen to when I'm working out tomorrow morning. Did you have to call Bill Roth, your latest and most recent guest, Professor Roth?
I was not on the podcast. It was Carter and Chris. I actually have to listen to it as well because it just dropped this afternoon. But he's the voice of the Hokies, everybody, and he's been doing it for a really long time. And excited to give it a listen. And I know Carter and Chris were on there. Maybe Carter called him Professor Roth.
I am going to be listening intently and grading Carter based upon whether he pulled that off or not. He might have to do some apologizing next time in the fast lane. In the meantime, no apologies necessary from David Cunningham. Always good to catch up with you. We appreciate it. We'll have many more of these soon.
Sounds great. I'll talk to you soon.
David Cunningham of TechSideline.com with us here in the fast lane. That does it for us today. W227 BG Timberlake, WVGM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna Danville Southside, now legitimately in progress on to Freddie and Harry.